Hey everybody, and welcome to the Chew stream. So in today's stream, we're going to be painting this pug, and this is a monochromatic painting exercise. So you can go ahead and go to the description of the video and click on the link. It will lead you to Schoolism, where you can type in your email and download the exact same drawing that I'm painting from. In this exercise today, you're going to be using all sorts of different values from light to dark and different amounts of saturation. Okay, but we will not change the hue. That is the challenge of this painting. It's going to be just a monochromatic painting. Now, today's episode is going to be quite different and awesome because we have a guest artist. Stephen Silver is going to be joining us for today's drawing exercise as we discuss the importance of drawing fundamentals. What are drawing fundamentals? Everybody says stick to your fundamentals, stick to your fundamentals. Well, what exactly are they? We are going to be talking about the essential art fundamentals to improve as an artist. We will also address what to look out for in a teacher and educational programs, as well as what do clients like to see in portfolios. All this and more in today's stream. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know your feedback in the comments. All right, hey everybody, and welcome to Chew Stream. This is going to be a very different stream. We're gonna try to do this in a duo kind of setting. I got my very good buddy, Mr. Stephen Silver, on the stream. You can see him right in the corner there. Just want to kind of just have an open. Oh, let's slide you over to the side here so you don't feel like you're all alone on the stream there. But Stephen is on the stream, so today it's going to be great because we're going to be just talking about just having a normal like art conversation. That's what I want to do. Where we're taking your questions and just talking about art, talking about whatever kind of interests us, what's kind of important these days. I have a few topics that I want to bring up with Stephen, and you can feel free to write in your questions as well. But make sure, because the chat does get a little crazy sometimes, make sure to write in the word question in capital letters before your question so we can see it very easily, okay? Um, the other thing I want to mention was, well, there's a few things, couple things I want to mention. You can download this file and paint along with me. I'm going to be painting this file today. I'm going to be painting this pug today live for you guys. And you can paint along with me. And I encourage you to paint along with me because not only are these talks about good kind of art conversations that are applicable to many artists out there, but as well, we double it up with painting along with us. This is an exercise. It's all to strengthen your artistic skills, your brain, and all that good stuff. And when you post it on social media online, be sure to hashtag it ChiuStream. Okay, CHIU stream, and then I can find them, and then I'm going to post the ones that were my absolute favorite for the past little while. So here we go. Here are some of the wonderful submissions that I got um, lately. Okay, so this is the first one. This is off of Instagram. Really neat, black and white. Here's one practicing profiles, which is great. All these different profiles came from the same base, right? So it's quite an interesting exercise where it doesn't really dictate your style, but it's more about visualizing, more about really just coming up with something from nothing. And then we have this one right here where we start to get into monochromatic paintings, and that's what I'm going to do today. This is a monochromatic painting from somebody off of Twitter. So now you can follow them and watch their progress. So congratulations to all three of you guys. You guys did an awesome job. And next thing I want to mention was Colorado coming up. It's going to be Craig Mullins. It's going to be Carla Ortiz, Jeff Turley, Terrell Whitlatch. I'm going to be going. And my buddy Steven Silver is going to be going. You're going to be teaching
Woo!
character design, right?
That's right. Yep.
Right on. And that's going to be really such a great class. A lot of people, they don't know that many of your techniques I use in my live action character designs as well. And it's not just applicable for 2D animation. You know, what were some of I guess what how I want to start this off with you is just go over just a couple of the things that you wish students will know about your class. There's always misconceptions about, just about every class. And what are the biggest misconceptions about your class?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would say is when it does come down to style, just because I do believe that once you understand the fundamentals, and that's why I've always been so, I always think the most important thing that I'm always telling people all the time is, story, gesture, design, forms, details. Those are like the five main aspects of drawing. And those are the things that I think that if you get those down, you can do whatever style you want. So I sometimes people think, oh, am I just going to draw in the style of Stephen Silver? And I honestly really just try to make people not. I tell them in my class, I say, listen, you're going to be watching me draw, but don't do what I do. Just really just try to find out the real essentials. So I think that's the thing that I would say is, drawing is drawing, but learn the foundation, and then you can really draw anything. I really believe in that.
A
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of artists, we talk about what should you improve on, what should you concentrate on, and then a lot of us say the fundamentals, right? Oh, you got to
Yeah.
practice more about the fundamentals. For those of, those watching and listening and wondering, what the hell are the fundamentals?
Right. What the hell are fundamentals?
Maybe
Yeah.
you can elaborate
Yeah,
on what that
I
is.
mean, I think it's so much of it is observation. There was this famous artist course that was put out in the 60s, yeah, maybe 50s, 60s by Norman Rockwell and Albert Dorn and Robert Fawcett, these just these amazing illustrators of their time. And it was a sort of correspondence school of the day where they would send out these huge books and you do the assignments, but their whole theme of their whole stories was all about see, observe, and remember. And even though they got into the fundamentals, it always became that you always want to just train yourself to learn how to see, you want to observe, and then the fundamentals is just getting and understanding construction. I think a lot of it comes down to that. I think if you can learn to just put construction together, because it's not about images necessarily, your imagination. Everyone's going to have a different take, but I think imagination is really key too. But the fundamentals to me comes down to construction of forms. And I think if you understand that, if you understand shape language, if you understand constructing, then you can build and make anything like what you're doing today, because it's so cool, just all the stuff that you come up with in your mind. And they're crazy and they're bizarre, and it doesn't matter how you color it and how you twist it, but the fundamentals are there. The construction's there. Like, what would you say? What are your thoughts on that, on the fundamentals?
Yeah, really, it's just, I think it's all about, what the hell are we seeing?
Yeah.
Anything that relates to like explaining what the heck are we seeing? Like, for example, uh, why is a white t-shirt not actually white at night? Like, what are we seeing there? Perhaps if you're to paint it, you would actually be grabbing a really dark blue to paint a white shirt. Um, or things like a lot of stuff that you talk about with structure, like, okay, we're seeing this stuff, bones, muscle, fat, all mixed in with skin on top and all this stuff. And that one is a little bit more different because you're kind of thinking about what is underneath what you're seeing as well, right?
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of these kind of things that people don't really think about, that totally hold true to pretty much all other subjects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I'd say like the biggest thing that I see when it comes down, a lot of people like to show their portfolios when I meet with them. You probably see the same sort of thing. And the one thing that I find that everyone is trying to jump into an attack is just trying to make a beautiful painting somehow. They're trying to just they see some, man, I love the way that guy paints, I love the way that guy does this, and that's what they're shooting for, as opposed to sometimes you got to just strip it back. You got to start from that basic. Yeah, it comes down to the structure again. It's like if you can have that, or the story within the idea. So when you look at something, you go, I get it. I recognize that instantly. That dog right there, I can tell that his blah, blah, blah. And you're not trying to second guess anything. You feel, it's a feeling a lot too, which is, I think it comes from experience, wouldn't you say? A lot of it, that things that you've seen yourself, again, it always keeps coming back. We keep saying the word seen and observe, and it really comes back down to that.
Yeah, a lot of it is definitely about observing. It's interesting because it's like it's almost like you seen Karate Kid, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When it's like wax on, wax off, and you're wondering what the heck are you doing, and then you kind of bring it back into the fight, bring it back into the painting or the drawing, and then you're like, oh, I get it now. I was just doing cubes for like 2 months, but now I
right.
see cubes everywhere in the most complex objects and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. Now, I'm just curious, like when I was learning life drawing, I remember a period of time where I was like, you know what? I really want to understand linear structure really, really well. So I stopped drawing tones, I stopped shading in things. And then there was a period of time where I was like, I want to concentrate on lighting. And so I stopped drawing lines. Was there any kind of moment in time that you can remember where you were, really practicing hard and had to kind of isolate certain thought, a certain skill?
Yeah, what's fun? I really did all my real practicing probably about 13 years ago before I had kids. Everything like I was just die hard at that point. But yeah, I did. I think more for me was always line. I was always fascinated by line, and I because of Mad Magazine. And the illustrators that I grew up with. I tried to learn how to paint when I was younger, and I just, it always comes down to me, and like I say to my students, does it feel natural? That's a question you need to always ask yourself. Does it feel natural to you? You want to try something, you want to give it your college try, work at it. But if it starts to become such a struggle, and I think those are the things that it became, where just, man, I'm not just enjoying this as much when I tried to paint.
Hmm.
But I did. And I wasn't doing it long enough. So I never really went through those phases. I've always gone through phases. I'm total ADD, where I'm gonna mess with like I like acrylic paints. Oh, I'm gonna do some acrylic painting right now. My mind gets set, and for about a week, I'll do acrylic painting, and then I'll just stop, and then I'm just done. And then I'll just go back into my usual habits of just drawing. A part of it's a comfort zone, but I think I've always been attracted to the pencil. I've always been attracted to just drawing in the sketchbook, and I haven't found, and I found that's the easiest way to do it for me is when it just comes to drawing. But yeah, but I'm fascinated when I do see, I got into markers for a while where I was just drawing with markers, black markers from 10% to 90%, and that's all I would use. Um, but yeah, I think it always the line thing has been my thing, and then it comes and goes really, and I think that's the beautiful thing, right, about being an artist,
Hmm.
is that we just get to at any moment, we're not locked into such a routine or a Bible to say like for within the laws that the lawyers have to follow or doctors have to follow, that we can just say at any moment, hey, you know what? I want to do this, and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to completely step outside the box and see what happens, and try to find maybe that thing that's natural for us. I think
Well,
that's what I love about the whole art process.
yeah, and also I really love. are this for a lot of the same reasons. I love this show called American Ninja Warrior. You ever watch that show?
No, I never seen that. Mm-mm.
So it's like the hardest course you ever seen, the hardest kind of obstacle course you ever
Oh,
seen,
yeah, 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 yeah. I have seen that. I have seen that.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like it's in its or it just finished its seventh season. Okay, and the winner that beats the course gets $1 million, and in 7 seasons, or in 6 seasons, I should say, nobody actually finishes the course because it's so bloody hard,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
this year, two people finished the course for the very first time, but it took 7 years. And
Wow.
that's kind of like the fundamentals in a way where it's like you want to master the fundamentals. Well, there is no mastering the fundamentals. You know, you can practice, you can study line for all your life, you can study
Right.
color for all your life. Al Hirschfeld studied line
Yeah,
for all his life,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
still, nobody can really say that they've completely mastered line.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Yeah, I think that's you always got to be learning though. I think you have to. I think it's healthy for you. Like you always have to grow and you want to keep growing. You don't want to be stagnant. You just don't want to be that little plant that's not moving. Eventually it dies off. If something's not growing, it dies and it's going to wither away somehow or maybe faster. And I think for artists, yeah, you have to always be in that mindset that we always want to grow. We always want to learn something new. And sometimes I think even if what I realize, even if you're not intentionally trying to seek out something new, you're learning through osmosis just by observation. Again, comes down to seeing you see someone else's work, you see something else that's being done, like what you're doing here, and that becomes a catalyst for inspiration. It becomes a catalyst for, hey, you know what? I haven't done that. I'm going to try that. And even if you try it for a day and you're like, it doesn't feel natural. I don't like it. That's fine. You know. So what are you doing here, like with your little guy? What's his name?
I don't know. I don't know what his name is. But this is actually a drawing I drew like years ago. And I usually have like a folder where I will have these drawings from, that I've done that are kind of like backup in case I don't know what the heck I want to draw.
Yeah,
So what was this? It's just because I think I liked pugs at the time. I thought they were funny and just kind of a little bit dumb looking, which
yeah,
makes them
yeah.
actually even cuter sometimes. So what I'm doing now is I'm really just concentrating on the structure of it, right? Not really thinking about how dark shadows are getting or how light they should be getting, but just more placing the shadows in the right areas, and then I'll adjust them later because I'm not using any reference for this. So I'm really just trying to kind of wing it. Um,
Right.
we'll see
Yeah,
how
well,
it goes. What's that?
I'm looking at the screen. Well, I'm looking at the screen here too, and it looks. I don't know if is it moving? Are you doing stuff? I don't see like.
Right now I'm not doing stuff.
Oh,
Well, now I am, but
it's on a little delay thing.
well, it's yeah. There's probably a little bit of a delay, but also sometimes when I have to really think about
Oh
something,
yeah,
then all
yeah,
of a sudden
yeah.
everything stops. So hopefully that's what I got you here for to
Yeah, oh,
help me
yeah,
out
yeah.
with
No,
this
you
as
keep
well.
going. I see a question here. I see a question here from Belgravia. Is there a way to define when you're really not enjoying what you're doing versus the feeling of resisting challenging yourself, which often shows up right before a skill leap? Yeah, that's a great question. Is there, is there a way to define that? If whether when you really enjoy, when you're not enjoying versus feeling you're resisting it? I don't know. I mean, I think there is. I think it's within yourself. I don't know. I think for me, Bobby, I mean, you can say what comes to you, but for me, I don't feel like I'm resisting it, other than I'm just trying it, and I'm just not feeling maybe the feeling I get when I'm doing something else. But I will tell you that I won't. You don't want to just give up. You don't just want to do it once or twice and say, okay, I'm done. I think you got, like I said, you got to really give it some momentum and try and effort. And if you're just feeling like you're bored, you're getting real bored, I don't know. To me, that's a sign. I
Yeah.
don't want to keep doing anything that I'm bored doing.
Definitely. I think it's just a matter of, well, there's two kinds of kind of main situations that's going to make you feel like that, right? Like one is just through frustration. So you're like, oh, this isn't as easy. I'm bored of this. I don't want to do this. Versus, okay, I learned it. I'm doing it well. I know what to do, but you know what? It's just not me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I don't know if you learned animation before, but that's exactly how I felt with animation. I learned it, I did it, made a couple crappy films, and no, I don't feel like I'm gonna be a good animator. I don't feel like that's where my passion is. And
Right. Yeah.
eh,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think, yeah, you can stick with that and you can try it and follow it as far as you can go. But, at a certain point, I don't think you want to compare yourself either. You can't go like, I'm never going to be as good as Glenn Keane, so I give up. You can't do
yeah,
that. I think everyone's got their own voice and their own way. I think as long as you're, yeah, enjoying the process and it feels right. But I feel a lot of people when they're working on things, they're just frustrated with it. They want to animate or do something, but they know they have a lot of shortcomings. They know they got a lot of things that aren't working. So I think the thing is just make sure that you're working on those, your strengths, whether it's your gesture, your storytelling, your construction. That seems to be like a lot of comes down to the fundamentals again that you got to make sure get that down, and then you can draw any style you want. It doesn't matter. Someone had asked just about is the exercise doing monochromatic painting based on
yes.
your drawing?
Yes, so every exercise that I do, I put a little description up, and this is a monochromatic exercise. I kind of take learning art kind of like how you learn martial arts or something like that. If any of you out there have learned martial arts, first you learn how to do a punch, first, and then you work on that punch forever and ever and ever and ever, and then you bring in maybe a slightly different punch, and so on and so forth until you get into kicks and this and that. So, those of you that started doing these exercises, you know what I'm talking about. At first, we just did lines, right? And we just did lines for a really long time. And then we got into monochromatic paintings or just black and white paintings. So there's no dealing with saturation at all or anything like that. And now we're bringing that next level of saturation, but don't touch your hues, right? And you got to try to build something, paint something without adjusting your hues and trying to just make the best out of that, and then we'll introduce more colors and more colors. So this pug, well, a pug can very easily be monochromatic. So I figured that this would be a good one because also you're going to be dealing with where to add more saturation, where not to add more saturation. And if you stick with these exercises, it's like going to the gym. It will keep you artistically healthy. And if
That's
you are
good.
going
Yeah.
through frustrations like we were talking about before, doing these exercises, that's really just your brain working out hard, lifting up big weights. And of course, that's, when it strains, when it's really trying, it shows through frustration.
We had Nicholas ask, this happens to everyone, professionals and students. What are some of the things you guys are struggling to learn or get better with currently? And
Oh,
what
that's
are
a
you
good one.
doing to improve?
Well, well, I guess I'll go first. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I just came back from a workshop in Stockholm where I, was watching Shelley Wan teaching how she does color keys and her process at Pixar, how she did a lot of the amazing art for Inside Out. And so it's a very different method than I do. So I'm definitely struggling with that. Just kind of incubating it. I'm not showing anybody my little practice stuff, but that is what I'm working on now. What
Right
about you,
on.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think like right now, I'm not going through that phase of feeling right now. Do I go through the feeling? Yes, I think because I'm involved in, some projects of my own that my focus is going there, so I'm not allowing myself to get almost like distracted in that but I think what I but I definitely would go through that. And it would like there'd be instances where I'd be, I spend too much time just drawing people's faces in my sketchbook because that's what I did was caricature most of my life, growing up. And I just don't draw enough bodies, and that was something that I knew I struggled with. I knew I struggled with inventing bodies. So what I did about it was started to make commitments. I made commitments to specific sketchbooks because I have many sketchbooks going at a time where that specific sketchbook just became this is the body sketchbook. I'm not allowed to just draw heads
Oh,
in this
nice.
sketchbook. I have to draw bodies in this sketchbook. So it forced me to say that this had to be done, and I couldn't draw in that sketchbook if I wasn't going to draw someone's body in
So
that sketchbook.
are you like really organized that like that with your sketchbooks? Like each one represents a different thing, or was that like a special case?
It was more of a special case. Yeah, I got into because I realized I was having a weakness. And I guess it's all about just knowing what your weakness is and trying to be so true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
within your work. And it does come to comparison. Oftentimes I like to think, to people, I tell, don't compare yourself because you drive yourself nuts, and you will. There's a thing to that. There was this guy that said, Wallace Wattles, who said, don't be competitive, be creative. And I truly believe, yeah, you want to be creative. Don't worry about comparing yourself, but that thing does sink in, and where it is healthy to say, hey, that artist is awesome at doing that, and I want to get to that level. And that's where the comparison should be, where you're more inspired and not intimidated, really.
I
From
must have come across that Wall what's his name
Wallace
again?
Wattles.
Yes, Wallace Wattles book or something because I totally remember hearing that somewhere and I've been saying it like maybe it was mine or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no. So there's this book is that he wrote. If all you guys are listening, this guy's book was he wrote three books. There was like the science of getting healthy, the science I can't remember the one of them, and then the science of getting rich. And the beautiful thing about like the science of getting rich was not in this sort of thing like we're gonna scheme and it's like this thing. It's like there's a real science and philosophy just to the mindset. It was all about just creating this mindset of just the right sort of approaches and things like that. Like don't be competitive, be creative. That's a science in a sense to achieving the things that you want to achieve, where you're not just getting stuck in the mud and you're just so like down, oh, everyone else is doing this so much better than me, and I'll never be compared, I'll never be as good as Bobby Chew, and I'll never be as good as Glenn Keane, and I'll never be as good as this. And you're not putting yourself in that place, and you're just more open, say, you know what, forget that. I'm going to start being more creative. I'm going to put my stuff out there, and I think that's where you make things happen. I mean, I think just what you're doing, what you've done, just you've always with you, Bobby, too. You're just out there. Part of the thing, like I would say, is just putting yourself out there. Like you've done right. Wouldn't you say like what were you doing? You were like going to
Oh
conventions,
yeah.
getting stuff
Oh yeah.
out there, and
And actually that kind of makes me think about a really good question, which is like what do you think are the most helpful or important events for people to go to and why? Like you know, like the events that have helped you the most.
yeah. Well, I think definitely. Conventions have always been great because you're putting yourself out there, you face to face with people, and I think they're just growing and it's getting bigger and bigger. It's like there's such a demand for it, and things have really changed. Where I think the worst thing you can do is just hide behind the internet and the computer and just all you do is that
Hmm.
because you can get lost, I believe, in the mix out there. There's so much content on the internet where you got to throw yourself out there. And I think for me, what really helped was always just showing up, was putting myself out there, showing up to gallery shows, showing up to just special events, just showing up to anything in your community. I think going to joining art association groups if there's one in your I joined one when I was in San Diego, but before I was a professional. It was called the Southern California Cartoonist Society, and once a month they had a guest speaker, and I got to hear professionals, and I'd go to again gallery shows and just meet people there and conventions.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you say you're international, because a lot of the listeners are international and you could only
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to like three events in a year or something like that. What specific events do you think, would be really helpful for people to get into uh, the the animation, movie, game, that kind of industry?
Well, first I would say, like San Diego Comic Con is,
Yeah, that one's for sure.
yeah, I mean, San Diego Comic Con is one of those, the big ones, but more than thinking about just trying to set things set up anywhere, go check these things out. Just don't feel you need to have a booth or a table. It comes again back to observation. Go and see what other people are doing. See how other people are selling themselves, and what are people, what do people have at their booths? What's going on there? I think another great show, if you're able to make it, and it's a free show to attend, and I encourage every artist in the planet to go to this, is the Licensing Expo
Oh
in
yeah.
Las Vegas. It's free to attend. You just need to have your flight to Las Vegas, where who doesn't want to go to Las Vegas, and get your hotel room. But to go to, you just register online, and licensing is, if you're an artist, this is where you can create and develop an idea, a one offshoot of an idea, and someone else takes your idea and they put it on the shirts and the bed sheets and the party supply and everything, and you can get royalties. It's good to observe. Again, it's good to, I've never set up there. It's like $7,000 for a table
Yeah, but we went.
there.
We went years ago.
Yeah,
Remember?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was fun. Yeah. And just checked it out. But wasn't it cool? Didn't you think you saw it really how the other side worked?
It was definitely cool, but I also still felt like, okay, well, what, where do I go from here kind of thing? Like, do I want to spend 7,000, $8,000 on a table?
Yeah, no.
Probably not, especially if I'm a beginner. But it definitely was very inspiring and
Yeah.
kind of gave me goals that I ended up, going after in the future, right? So,
Well, I mean, like what it did for me was made me realize how vital and important art is in this industry. Although people will make you not think that sometimes or feel that, because
hmm
sometimes, you got these big corporations and the big animation studios, and you got all these executives and all these people. When you go to the licensing expo and you see all these people in their suits and they're all making deals, they're all making deals around art, which was awesome. It's all art, because without the art, without the content, they have nothing to sell. They
hmm
have nothing to put onto product. They have, they got no merchandise. And it was really cool just to say, yep, it just reconfirms like how important the art is. Just a couple questions here. There was one from Vanya. She says, "How should a portfolio be for a character designer?" I would totally just say you just got to have versatility. Is a good thing. You just want to have a lot of variety, and know your focus. I think there's two ways about it. If I mean, Bobby. Let's talk about Bobby, and let's talk about like what I'm doing. Okay, so what I do. I work in the animation industry, so does Bobby, but I work a lot in the TV side and do commercials. And what you're in the TV and commercials, so to speak, you see just a lot of range. Every single TV show is different, every commercial is different. So what people are wanting is something they want to first of all see that you can draw. They want to see solid draftsmanship. They want to see versatility, and they want to see just a sense of imagination, just character, fun. They want to see that really shine through. And that's what they want to see in the portfolio. And if they look at your portfolio and go, yeah, he can do this, he can do this, that's just going to get you more of those sort of jobs.
hmm
But then you've got the other side where I'd say, like with Bobby, what you're doing, and you get guys like Peter DeSev, and you get guys like Carter Goodrich, and you got your thing that you do, and you're being hired specifically for that. People
Yes.
say, I love what you do, and we're hiring you specifically because you do what you do. So you want to fill your portfolio full of your creatures and full of that sort of thing to show this is who I am, and that's what will get you those jobs, right? Would you
Oh yeah,
agree?
yeah. I heard this funny story where it was like, why didn't we were talking with this successful artist, and I was asking her, why didn't you get hired the first time that you applied for this studio? And she said, well, even though they liked what they saw and everything, the thing that they were looking for was, for example, snails. It wasn't snails, but let's just say snails,
Right.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
example. And so the person that did get hired was somebody that, designed snails really well. So they're very, very specific. And in that case, a lot of people might get really intimidated because they're like, well, that's kind of putting all your eggs in one basket, hoping that somebody's going to make a snail movie, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you don't want to have everything in there as well, because for feature film, like they're really looking for super specialized people. And if you have every animal in there, then yeah, that might help, because then you're the animal guy. But say
Right.
you have every subject in there, then most likely you're not going to be that main designer,
Right.
right? You
Yep.
might be a supporting designer. But the other
Yep.
thing, the flip side to that is, if you specialize in something and that's totally the thing that you want to be known for, then you just have to really, really concentrate on it so that you are that person that everybody thinks about when they're talking about like creatures, for example. That's like the
Right.
thing that I love to do, right? And so because of my reach and because of the sheer passion to, for anything kind of living, and because hopefully, I reached a certain level that not a lot of people have reached with creatures and ideas of creatures, then, I still get the demand, even though I've really shrunken my, the thing that I specialize in way more.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much of this industry is all about just being distinctive. If you can be distinctive, you want to be that guy who's doing something where you don't want someone to be looking at your portfolio. When you're younger, it's flattering when someone say, if say your stuff was Norman Rockwell, because everyone knows Norman Rockwell, and
Hmm.
everyone goes, "Man, your stuff it's awesome, looks just like Norman Rockwell." Oh, thanks, man,
Isn't
that's
that the
awesome.
worst?
You play, and when you're younger, you
Yeah.
feel like proud, like wow, that was awesome. But as you get older in the industry, you realize that's the worst thing you want. You don't want that. You don't want people to say, wow, your stuff looks just like Norman Rockwell. It's like, ooh,
Isn't
that
that
that's
a,
not what you
but isn't
want.
that like a pet peeve of yours? If somebody goes like, "Oh yeah, your stuff looks so good. It looks just like my friend Sally's."
No,
It's just like, ugh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even more so, it's like in the industry, you don't want people that comparison. But sometimes you will get hired
Uh-huh.
because that your work may have a flair of something, and sometimes they'll go, "Hey, well, we don't want to pay that guy for it, but maybe we'll pay you because your stuff's good, but we know that guy's probably way too busy and too expensive." Like the thing that I always hated when I always get people saying, "We know, we hired some. We know that you're probably way too busy, and that it's just like, well, why don't you just email, and ask?" When I was working at Sony, before I started working at Sony Feature, a friend of mine, he said they were posting up all my stuff. This was for Cloudy of a Chance and Meatballs, and they were posting up. This guy, the director, were posting up all my stuff on the walls
I
and
know.
talking about what they're kind of looking for and what they wanted. And then my friend who was working, he says, why don't you just hire Steven Silver? And he said, well, he's probably too busy and stuff. Well, let me give him a call. Let me see if it's available. So he contacted me and said, hey, are you available? And I said, sure, that'd be awesome. And then they contacted me. It's like, oh, man.
That is definitely a
But
pet peeve, like
yeah,
when you hear, "Oh yeah, you know what? Your stuff was on the board for inspiration for our film." It's like, why didn't you just call us then, It
right.
would have been so much more fun for us, and and they probably would have gotten a better result because you're
Yeah,
going to
no,
the source.
absolutely. I was talking to this guy, this potential client, just a week ago, and he was saying, they were looking for me to do some stuff. He says, listen, we really like this is what we're doing, but we really like this art from this artist, and they're showing me this other artist stuff, and I'm just like, okay, can you do that? I said, okay, and I'm just like, can I ask you questions? Or yeah, why don't you just hire that guy? And
Uh-huh.
he kind of like kind of threw him off. Well, he doesn't want to talk to me. I was like,
Weird.
okay, yeah, it was weird. It's just weird things, but that stuff goes on, all the time. Someone asked a question about when the next schoolism, Toronto schoolism. You're doing that in like April or March, May,
Well,
right?
right now we don't actually have a set
Oh,
date for
the
that.
Toronto
You know,
schoolism, yeah,
yeah, the Toronto one, we don't actually have a set date for that, but I can tell you some important dates that are coming up. You know, there is the Colorado workshop with, like I said, you're going, I'm going, Craig Mullins, Carlo Ortiz, Jeff Turley, and Terrell Whitlatch. That's happening on October 24th, 25th. Then there's Dubai, November 6th and 7th. Nathan Fowkes, Justin Fields, I'm going there, David Levy, Stanley Artgerm Lau, and Chris Pern. And another really important date is your class is coming up. You know, Stephen Silver, character design. You have both your advanced class
yeah,
and your regular class starting on October 19th. So
yeah,
super
2 weeks
exciting
away.
about that. You know, and that is probably the best kind of scenario if if you can afford it, definitely sign up because you paint on top of people's stuff, you draw on top of their stuff, and you talk to them specifically about their work, so it's very
Yeah,
different.
again, I'm never trying. I never want people to follow my style. I always say, listen, even though I'm making some adjustments, I don't want you. This isn't about style. And it's almost like what I want to do is just strengthen their fundamentals and their design abilities. Like, so when I'm looking at your dog here, things that I look at, it's almost like I look at a student's piece of work. But why is this dog so appealing, and why is this dog working? And that's what I kind of want to tell people. So I'm just going to give you why I think this dog looks awesome.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just he's a little. Is there a way? Oh, I can see the little small one back there. It's just, yeah. When I look at this as a whole, I just love all the variety and the variation you have, and there's subtle things that bring this guy to life. It's even just nothing's even within the drawing. Like I mean, that could show a different sort of character. Maybe everything's strong, everything's even, everything's very sort of parallel. But by doing that, you're showing that that dog is very sturdy and is very just, he's on guard.
Well, this is
But
actually
this,
coming from something that you taught me in your class, actually, called the ladder rule
yeah,
or
yeah,
something like
yeah, the
that.
ladder.
Maybe you can explain that to the audience a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the ladder is just really about not making everything. So if you imagine just a ladder where it has all the ladder rungs and they're all just very even, and that just becomes very stagnant and can become very boring visually because design is just all about organization of shapes. And it's all about variety and contrast, just like painting. They all tap into each other. And just what you have going here is like nothing feels just evenly placed. If I drew just parallel lines going horizontal across your drawing, I would see a variety from the top of his head to where his eyes are, to where the bottom of his chin is, to where you've even drawn that color separation where his legs are. And even on the side, like I'm looking at the left side of his leg from my perspective, where you don't have that much room there. It goes like from the side of his body to where that leg is very short distance. Then you got a nice big distance from the leg to the next leg, and then you got another distance which isn't even. It's not the same shape as compared to the one, and not making it symmetrical. And I think, when you do things like that, that's what brings that drawing to life. And even what you're doing here with the eyes, the fact that you've shifted one eye a
Hmm.
little further over, because even eyes aren't symmetrical. You always have one dominant eye. You got one dominant eye over your other eye. And so you can look at this dog and say his dominant eye is probably the one on our left that we're seeing, because that one's looking straight at us. The other eye doesn't need to look at us because we get it. And that's what I just see when I look at this is that variety and that movement and that angle that you're throwing in there. That's what's given this guy so much personality. And that's why the details don't even matter. Like just where you are right now, when I look at this, I go, it's all there. There's a visual communication that brings this guy alive, and it doesn't need the details. And that's the thing that I stress the most is stop, try to tell people don't focus on the details straight away. They always go for the details. Oh, I just want to paint it up straight away. No, no, no. Build it up like you're doing. You built it up from this drawing, and that's why it's just like looking so sweet.
Thanks, man.
Awesome, dude. I just gave you a critique.
Right on. And I got it for free. That's awesome. That's
There was a question. How do I balance everything? I'm trying to get a new job, follow schoolism course, and work on portfolio, do life drawings. I practice every day too. Well, my solution to balance, and I have a very easy system, and that is you have to have a physical paper calendar. I believe in this strictly now because I used to put everything on my phone and on my computer screen, but I get lost and I never check it. So every day I have my physical calendar and I write the things, and I don't try to do everything in one day too. I make sure that there was another saying by this guy, oh shit, not Wallace Waddles, but it was Napoleon Hill. And he said, don't do tomorrow's work today. And that's always stuck with me. Don't do tomorrow's work today because find out what you're trying to accomplish today and write that down. I used to try to jump multiple things all in one day, and I felt it was very frustrating to me. So I started to say, what if I really broke down simple things? So, hey, on Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to just do this. On Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to do this. I'm working on a new book right now. So like on Fridays, I say I'm just working on my book. I'm not going to try to work on my new book Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which I try to do. I try to squeeze in an hour or so each day, but it became overwhelming and I wasn't fully there. I was just trying to meet a goal. And I realized just by putting your things daily, creating that daily routine. It's like when you are going to the gym mentality again. On Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to work on my biceps. On Tuesday and Thursday, I'm going to work on my triceps, right? You don't want to work on your biceps and triceps on the same day. You're going to wear your muscles out and you could harm your muscles. And every gym coach will tell you that.
now.
So you got to do the exact same thing. I think that's the best way to balance your day. So you could do schoolism on this day and that day. You could do your portfolio. Say on Thursdays, I'm going to work on my portfolio, but concentrate. Work for 5 hours on your portfolio, putting it together on that one day. Don't try to do it every single day.
You know,
What do you think?
somebody said, I forget who said this, but they just said, when you are about to go on vacation, and the day before you go on vacation, you're running around, you're getting all this stuff done so that you can go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
It's just like pretend that you're gonna be going on vacation every stinking day. Like what are
Right.
the things that you need to finish up today? And just gives you so much more kind of urgency to
Yeah.
do these things. And there's much less of that in between tasks where you're just messing around and, going on Facebook or whatever it might be. Um, I always found that to be really good. And another thing is to develop a really good routine. You were talking a bit about your routine. Um, what is your routine in the mornings? Like a typical day where you really get a lot of stuff done, right? Your
Yeah.
ultimate day. What is that?
Yeah. Well, I
When do you
mean,
get up?
well, my everyday is like, yeah, you fall into these routines where you're just like, man, this is my life, man. Where every day at 6:45, I wake up, with my wife because we got to get the kids out of bed. I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old now. They got to get them breakfast, got to make them their food. My routine is I got to get their water together. I got to feed the dogs. So it's almost like this routine: wake up, feed the dogs, feed the kids, take my son to school and his friend. Then I come back and then I take my daughter to school. And then I come back from that, and then I got to walk the dogs. And by that time, that's all done by about 8:30.
Hmm.
So I'm finished with my morning, everyday, Monday through Friday routine. Then from 8:30, I'll just kind of hang out for about half an hour, just chat with my wife in the morning about whatever's going on that day. So I really started about 9 o'clock, and I'll come into my studio. And like I said, specifically, I work on specific things now. So now I only do freelance. Well, it depends. Every project's going to be different. But like my schoolism, I used to do my schoolism videos, record them every single day. I do like five students every day. Now what I do is I dedicate 2 days a week just to the schoolism. So I'm finishing that. I'm not getting overwhelmed with all the other things. And then I'll get into my, my freelance work. My kids get home at about 2:30 in the afternoon, so that sort of, throws me off a bit, and then they got to maybe be taken somewhere. So oftentimes my day usually is done by about 4 or 5 o'clock every day, and then it's now okay getting dinner and doing that and feeding the dogs again and and everything, and then watching TV and then going to bed.
When do you organize your calendar? Is that all throughout the day, or is that like towards the
I
end of your day?
usually do it every Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I start planning my week, but there's a lot of things that I have set that I know that every Friday I'm working on my art book. Every Monday, every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm doing my schoolism videos. And then there's those other things that sort of pop in, happen in between. So I know my fixed. It's almost like your fixed costs, like a budgeting. When you're budgeting, you know your fixed costs are paying for your utilities, paying for your gas, paying for your electric. So you always want to know what those are. You should know. And then the next thing is just your all those other extra costs that come in where they're just impulsive. It just, oh, this just came across my table today. Okay, I can squeeze that in. And that's what I sort of, how I kind of work it.
Hmm.
What about you? What's your typical day like?
If it's my absolute perfect, you know, super effective day, it would be getting up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then usually I'll just grab my sketchbook and force myself to sketch for about 10, 15 minutes. I would have had my and this is, of course, this is like the perfect day. Not every day is totally like this. Hopefully they all will be, but sometimes days are busier than others. But anyways, if it was the perfect day, then last night I would have prepared my gym bag,
Yeah.
put it by the door, so there's less kind of resistance to go to the gym. Then I'd go to the gym and listen to an audiobook, try to learn something. The audiobooks that I listen to are generally they're nonfiction, something that teaches you something, and then uh, and then I would meditate for about 20 minutes. And meditation, there's all sorts of different kinds of meditation, right? So the one that I like the most, and I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but it's definitely been super effective for me, is I would go through all the little bits of my day, all the little tasks, and try to picture myself, opening the door, walking in, like all the details, right? And
Yeah.
going from one task to another without stopping, because that is such a big waste of time when you're
Yeah.
trying to go from one task to the other. And I would imagine kind of obstacles in the way, people being jerks, stuff like that, and me reacting to it in a positive way. I'm sure somebody else has kind of talked about this or invented this or whatever. I'm sure I got it from some sort of book, but I can't remember what. But yeah, generally that's what I'll do. And then around 3 or 4 o'clock, I would go over my to-do list and set it up for pretty much the next day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that way, I don't want to do my to-do list in the mornings because how many times have we just kind of sat at our desks and just went, yeah, so what should I do now? What should I start off with?
Right.
Let me go
Yeah.
grab a coffee and then I'll think
Right.
about it. It's like
Yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
minutes
There's no
later.
structure at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah. for sure.
That's generally my days nowadays. Like if I could do those things, then I'm gonna have a really optimal day, get a lot of stuff done.
We have a question here from Sarah. I think we might have answered this. Do you think a portfolio should have more art that reflects your style, interests, or what other people have asked you for? Should there be a balance of what is popular with your own thing? Yeah, we kind of tapped into that earlier on. So, maybe if rewatch this is going to be up for people to rewatch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah.
up on my YouTube page, so you can just search out Bobby Chiu YouTube, and you can find my page there. Or you could just go to youtube.com/, I think digitalbobbert.com.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
yeah.
because again, answering that, I just think yeah, people are looking for specific. You want to do what you love to do, and people are looking for specific things. They're not looking necessarily for jack of all trades and master of none. They're looking for that specific thing. They're either looking for a character designer, they're looking for a background layout artist, they're looking for a color stylist. They're specific. So finding that strength. Another question here is. People say I should share my art, but I'm wondering, should I share my ideas story or should I just keep that private? I think share your art, but yeah, you're not going to put. I don't think you're going to write the story. No one's going to know what your story is if you're showing your art. It's not like you're going to have the show Bible on there or something.
Hmm.
But part of me almost thinks I was thinking about this yesterday. Like I came up with this awesome idea for a TV show just yesterday. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I'm going to put it on Facebook just so that it's there and no one can say if anyone does anything I could say hey you stole my idea it was there but then I thought no maybe that's not a good idea but it might be a good idea but yeah just be careful you don't want to give them you could give little bits and pieces but I think if you don't share your art how are people going to know who you are and what you do right.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely different philosophies with this, and for me, we came up with an idea, and then we made it into animated comic book. Now we kind of live in an age where you don't have to have this like, huge backing behind you to actually put an idea out there. You know, Even if your end result idea is like motion picture, right? And that costs millions of dollars. Well, you don't have to actually put out the motion picture just yet. You could put it out as something else, like a animated comic book, or
Right.
perhaps
Yeah.
just like a low budget, publish it yourself comic book, 500, 1,000 copies, something like that, and just do it that way. It's like the hardest thing that and all of the artists had to deal with from when time began is really like distribution, right?
Hmm.
And now
Hmm.
with iTunes and all this stuff, those are giant distribution centers, right?
Yeah.
YouTube. So we're living in an age where we don't actually need a lot of things that we needed before to get our ideas out there.
Yeah, no, yeah, I totally agree with that. There's so many different platforms now, but yeah, you don't have to give it all away. I think if you're going to show certain people, if it comes to the point where maybe you do know someone who's at a studio, who's maybe ahead of a studio, someone, or they own something where you want to show it to them. I think it's important to sign an NDA
Hmm.
if you're going to disclose it to people who could potentially take your idea beyond that and everyone knows what an NDA is just a non-disclosure agreement and anyone in business knows what that is and it's okay to say to someone hey I want to show you this idea but would you mind signing this NDA. Most people 99% of the time are going to be like no problem and
Hmm.
most people are always going to ask you to sign an NDA whenever you're working on a project because basically it just says I'm not going to post this all over Facebook and share it and do all that and you're just kind of protecting each other from that so it's sort of wise to do. Someone had asked and I was just going back to it, Dwayne, just about planning it to start a character design for television animation portfolio. What should I do? Original characters, cartooning something oh it just got lost there. Breaking Bad, I think, or something else. My suggestion is, yeah, you want to have original content, showing your creativity. You got to have the versatility, And something that's very important, which a friend of mine who was hiring people at Warner Brothers Television Animation for a lot of older shows, he says, you know what people need to start putting in their portfolios? He said, don't disregard, okay, don't get me wrong here, guys. The fan art. Okay, it's not fan art like he said. What we're doing now, all these shows, and you see it all over all these studios, Disney, Warner Brothers, you name it.
Hmm.
What are they doing? They're redeveloping pre-existing
Oh,
products,
totally.
shows from the past. So what they're redoing Scooby Doo, they're redoing Bugs Bunny, they're redoing whatever it may be. So these shows from the past, they're just bringing them out because everyone's familiar with them, and that's what a lot of stuff is going on in the industry right now. So he said, I want to see people's what people think between fan art. You're not just going to throw in a SpongeBob or a Sonic the Hedgehog as you've seen it, but you put your own twist on it. Create,
Nice.
redesign Bugs Bunny, redesign, some old, He-Man in your own interpretation. That's okay to put in your portfolio, but don't just do a complete rip-off, a knockoff of something that's already been done before. They're not interested, but all of a sudden they see, wow, what a fascinating approach that artist took on that. He said that's what's missing in a lot of portfolio that they want to see, because a lot of these guys aren't artists. They could say, oh, he's talented, but can he do this? So that's why I believe in putting as much versatility. This is sort of stuff I talk about in my character design classes through schoolism, is just making sure that you're putting in the apples, put in the oranges, put in the pears, put in the strawberries. Show that, because that's what people are going to be able to understand. If you just show pears in your portfolio, all they're going to say is, that guy can only draw pears. I don't think he's right for the job. And I've seen it. I've been in those rooms where people hire and they go, nah, we're not even going to test him because we don't even think he can do it. And that refers to almost like straight against curve style or
Hmm.
organic style, right? So things like that. So those are the things where it comes down to the fundamentals. And that's why you understand the fundamentals. That's what's going to be the kickoff to help you really go forward in your career.
Yeah, and one thing if I could just add, too many people kind of are working on their portfolios and not really allotting the time to constantly learn. And that's something
Mhm.
that it really separates so many of the really top professionals from more of the beginners that, like we're in Stockholm, there's plenty of stuff to see. What's Kay and Shelley Wan doing? They're going off and sketching, right? Like painting, got their, paints out and spending hours just staring at a door or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's what really, just that constant learning is what really will separate the the professionals from the amateurs. And it doesn't have to be necessarily even a schoolism class. You could read a book, you can look at videos, things like that. Of course, if you are able, the best thing to do is to get a mentor, somebody to go over your stuff, to really look
Yeah.
at it
Yeah.
and give you insight that you won't have, right? And that's actually,
Well,
not to
that's
keep plugging
huge
your
because yeah, I find people, they
course.
say, and even someone had the question, they say, I'm drawing all the time, but I'm not, how do I get better? I'm not getting better. And I think what happens is when you don't have that extra eyeball, you can't, I stopped showing my artwork to my parents when I was 18 years old
Yeah.
because they always told me how, oh, it's so great, it's so wonderful and brilliant. You're so terrific. And it's like, you don't want that. You don't want those people who are just going to keep feeding you with that. And sometimes even close friends can maybe do that. You want someone, honest opinion, you want an outside opinion. And you don't just, because, yeah, you could be drawing all the time. But if you're drawing all the time, but you keep repeating the same bad habits, you're not improving. And if you're drawing all the time, but you're not really seeing,
Hmm.
well, then you're not improving at that point. To where sometimes it just takes a, you know what? If you just try doing this Oh man, yeah, you're right. I didn't even see it. That's what I find the response that I get a lot when I point. Oh, it becomes that light bulb, and you want
Oh,
those
for
sort of
sure.
aha moments, those light bulb things where that's the benefit I think truly of having a mentor to help you. Like I had a mentor when I was doing caricatures in theme parks. My boss who hired me, I thought, man, I'm drawing all the time, and I said. Yeah, but if you just look at that, see that? Oh, snap. Damn it. I kept doing that thing the whole time.
That plays such a huge part in it, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
the seeing aspect of things,
The
like
seeing. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have somebody show you what they're seeing. And,
Right.
because a lot
Yeah.
of times you look at somebody paint, you look at somebody draw, you still don't know what the heck they're doing until all of a sudden you see the 19th century art studio pop out of this mess of like brushstrokes, right?
Right. Right.
Like the painting just comes out all of a sudden. And this is talking about Craig Mullins when he was doing his live demonstration. Remember that?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
it's like all of a sudden we're all like, oh, now we see it. How did that happen? But
Right.
if you had him there to explain to you, just like when you're doing your, or when we're doing our feedback videos, we're not just drawing over top of people's stuff, but the real big difference is that we're pointing out and we're explaining what are we seeing, what are we thinking about as we're drawing over top of your assignment.
Yeah.
It makes it so much more clear. So if you can get
Absolutely.
somebody like that to
Yeah,
just,
Kelsey, you're right. I wish I could find an art mentor. We're right here, Kelsey. Schoolism. Hey, we're right here to help.
well, definitely, for those of you out there that are interested, definitely just try. And I'm not saying this because, I have a schoolism class, but because I know it works, and we've been doing this for a while, so we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I think the thing is too, like when we, I remember just when you were starting schoolism, what's 10 years now,
Hmm.
doing that, and just again, it just comes from and came through, and why I wanted to be such a part of it was because of your wanting to teach. And again, it's part of having that passion for
Hmm.
teaching. Like I'm creating this, as a new outlet in a new way, just to get it across the board, open it up. You don't have to be in a physical place, and now you can sort of reach the world. And this was like very early on, before anyone was really doing this stuff.
Oh,
There was like,
absolutely.
and it was really groundbreaking. And for me as a teacher, and I was teaching in so many places because I believe my purpose in life is to teach. I love teaching. It's like, yeah, we don't have to do this. We could go on our merry way and keep doing our jobs for other people and do things. But again, it comes down to the passion and the purpose for doing it, which makes it great. And I think that's the most important thing to find when you're seeking out teachers. Anyway, you want to make sure that not only are they professional, not only are they working and understand current trends and working in the industry, but have a passion, for it too. There's nothing worse. I was teaching at Cal Arts, and there was a teacher there that was teaching another character design class. And I'm not going to say his name, but everyone could not stand this guy. They said, this guy is like freaking Hitler, man. This guy is just brutal. He doesn't care. There's no love. He just bashes everyone's artwork. And it's like, that's not teaching. To me, teaching is encouraging, giving people, the support and helping them through the process, and never telling someone that they're doing something wrong. That's my teaching philosophy. I'm not going to tell you you're doing it wrong. This was your sort of approach, to doing this, but this is how I would see it. This is what I would suggest you might try doing. Whether you do it or not is up to you. But I think the encouragement, and I know that that's why just what we do is it makes it work because of that. I think that's important. So whoever you guys do seek for a mentor, make sure that you're not getting someone who's berating you and belittling you. And you don't want that. That's not teaching. To me, that's abuse. That's not going to help you.
Well, maybe we can just finish off the session by just talking about what people should look out for when searching for a good mentor or even a good like educational system, because like I'll start off, one of my pet peeves is when people are going to sign up for a class or a school because of the school's reputation, but not doing the investigation of who actually teaches the classes. Because that to me is far more important than, you know, oh, well, I went to this school. In the
Right. Oh,
end,
yeah, yeah.
nobody
Right.
really cares about what school you went to. They care about your
No.
portfolio.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to. Yeah, at the end, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
what are the things that, people should ask their teachers, even, like, to see if they are the right fit for teaching?
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to just knowing whether they, knowing what professional experience they have. I think there's a bunch of artists out there, unfortunately, and it's sad that are claiming that they have worked in these studio environments and done things and they haven't. They've like done they've done one teaching somewhere and all of a sudden they claim themselves as a Disney artist or something like that, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
that's just crazy to me. But people like to there's a lot of that going on. What I see is these guys and they've had one little bit of experience. They had
Oh,
someone
for
who
sure.
is associated somehow with Pixar or Disney, but they say, well, now I was a Pixar artist and I was a Disney artist. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So really investigate, find out about these, your teachers. You just want to make sure that they have that experience. And also, do they do what you love? Are they doing something you say, hey, I want to learn that looks really cool? I think that's important too.
You know,
That's the thing. You go into a 4-year program somewhere, you could be thrown into a classroom at a regular school and you don't know who your teacher's going to be, and like, oh my God, that guy was horrible.
you know what I kind of relate some of this to? It's like, being able to work at one of the big studios or for the one of the big studios for a little contract or whatever it might be, versus staying in a studio, contributing to that studio for years and years and years, and leaving on your own kind of choice, or staying there
Yeah.
for a really long time. It's kind of like, just to give everybody the idea of how much more difficult it is to stay relevant, is to stay, valuable. It's kind of like, if you get into a studio, that's like learning how to jump and hit the rim, touch the rim on a basketball net. But then if you're to stay in a studio, that's like jumping and staying in the air, like levitating. That's how different
Yeah.
it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's such clear differences in people that can't stay in the industry for years and years and years versus, and perhaps got a job, at one point, and that's their claim to fame forever and ever, versus the
Right.
ones that can stay in the studios for like 10 years or more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so last thing, I just want to, just curious, you I don't have too many people that I would associate with that aren't artists nowadays. When you're meeting like non-artist friends and things like that, and for the very first time, and they ask you, what do you do? What do you say?
I mean, yeah, it just I mean I say what I do, right? I mean
Like, you just say, I'm an artist, and then they
yeah, I
probably
think yeah,
thinking
it
of,
just
what does that
becomes,
mean?
yeah, or my wife usually, she's by my side. She's oh my, so oh my husband's an artist. Or oh yeah, and then it becomes oh yeah, what sort of stuff do you do? Oftentimes now I'm really take pride in telling people that I'm a teacher. I teach. I'm an art teacher,
Nice.
and I work. Oh really? No kidding. So you do art, and then I can elaborate. But I love to say that because I feel it's so rewarding to say that. So a lot of times it's always teacher first, and then I'll say I'm a character designer because people don't know what a character designer is, especially non-artists.
Yeah.
That's why when you got to go into like all this explanation, what does a
Yeah.
character designer do? They have no idea. So, oh yeah, so you work, and yeah, so and then I got to explain, like Scooby Doo. Imagine Scooby Doo. Well, that had to be designed. That dog needed to be designed.
Hmm.
And then you got to get more elaborate. So I try to keep it real simple um, whenever I'm telling people. But yeah, I always get nervous. It's funny. I try to associate more with art friends just because, we're like kindred spirits. There's a connection there. We're of the same tribe.
Yes.
and other people almost like bug me. Just people who aren't artists, or like I used to have in my old neighborhood. I used to dread coming home. I lived on a cul-de-sac, and everyone that lived on the cul-de-sac was either an accountant, a mortgage broker, something else in there, and they'd always be outside and they'd always be talking, but it was always so the conversations. And I'd drive home from work and I'd come around the corner on a Friday night and I'd be like, oh God, please don't be on the street, everyone out there, because then I got to get out and talk to you. And then be there. Sometimes I'd find them sitting on my lawn, and it's just like, what the hell? And then I'd have to get out the car. Hey, man, how's it going? And it's like, oh, I always dreaded it. So
So,
I try to hang around
like when you're
arts.
so engulfed in what you do and the industry that you do, you don't really have as much time to do other things. Then do you ever find it hard to kind of communicate with, just hang out with people that are accountants and things like that because you have less in common?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's at that point just, you kind of like digging. But like I got a couple, like the only guys really that I hang out with in a sense that aren't maybe artists are my sons and Boy Scouts, and these are the Boy Scout are the dads, and so I go on camping
Hmm.
trips quite often. So now I'm in a camping trip with these guys. Some of them you try to avoid like the plague. Other guys are very cool.
Yeah.
And you want to hang around them because what we just talk about, it's just joking all the time. It's just you're just being sarcastic, or you just saying you're just shooting stuff about whatever, and I can relate to those guys, and and it's fun, and we never talk about art ever. They don't know. And but some for somehow there's some, I think, because they just dig at each other, and it's just kind of fun and it's funny. But otherwise I don't. It's yeah, it is tough for sure, for sure.
Well,
Otherwise, people go, hey, can you do artwork for me? You could just knock it out real quick. I got a business card, or I need a logo or something. Can you do that? Yeah, I'll give you a discount.
so what are some of like the big misconceptions that people automatically, non-artist type people start thinking when you tell them that you're an artist?
I think a lot of it that it's just easy, that you could just knock things out very quickly, and that how lucky, this is your gift, this is what you just do, you could just do this very quickly and easily. I think is the biggest thing. Other times I think what I've found is when I was looking for a lease, even just for my building, for my school here in LA, I was facing, and I had this with the guy that I did book with, artist. He was nervous just to even deal with me because he thought I was going to just be smoking weed all the time and having a Woodstock sort of event at my school, and no one was going to shower, and we were just going to be,
Oh,
you
that's
know, like a
hilarious.
Burning Man sort of thing there. That was his. That's what he thought, and this is what the realtor told me. He said, he's a little skeptical having an artist
Wow.
in his building, because are you going to be just showering in there? Are you going to be living in there? I'm like, no, 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 man, I'm a professional. I said, let me meet this guy. So I went and met with him, and he saw that I wasn't all dreadlocked out, and I wasn't stinky, and I wasn't all this, and we ended up having a lot in common, and just talking to him, and then he believed in what I wanted to do, and he said, okay, I'll lease it to you. But yeah, that's a misconception, that you just sort of like, hey man, I'm an artist, dude. Do you find that? Do you see stuff like that?
I'll
Or
tell you one. It's just I met this guy, it- um, and I told him, I'm an artist. It was actually a kind of like new family addition kind of thing, dating my uh, cousin or s- y- well, cousin of a cousin. Anyways, so
okay.
I meet him and he's a dentist and he goes, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, I'm an artist." And he's like, "Oh, cool, you do art. So what do you do for a living?" And then I was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I do art for a living." And he's like, "Oh, oh wow." And then that's it? That's the only job you have? And I'm like,
Yeah, that's
"Yeah,
fun.
yeah." And then, my cousin of a cousin had to say, well, he is successful at it. Like he's been
Right.
doing
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And the funny
I
thing
think
is
that would be
that
a
I
yeah.
later learned that this guy used to be really great at art
I never made
and
it.
never made it, changed
Yeah.
professions because he didn't think there was a
You can make
future
it.
in it. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Well, I would say I get that from parents. You know, when I meet different parents, where that's the misconception as being an artist, they believe or they assume, oh, can you make a living doing this? You know, so people don't really know that yes, you can make a living doing this. They don't believe that it's possible. And that's the thing, you got to believe that it is possible. Many of you guys watching this may not be right now making a full-time living, but just because you're not doing it right now doesn't mean it's possible. You know, just because I have this thing as, and I tell people all the time, just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. And that's the reality,
And the
you know.
other reality is that most of the time when it is really difficult, you get there and it's way better than any other kind of job because it was so
Oh,
difficult.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. It gives you a challenge. You got to be, yeah, it's a challenge, you know, for sure. But you got to have, I think, you got to have a real sort of independent spirit, you know, too. You got to have that sort of entrepreneurial sort of whereabouts within you, that drive. You know, and I think, and I could say that I think when I look at any real successful artist, there's a little bit of that, even though they may not have their own companies and their own businesses and they are working in the studio system, they still have their own drive and that real entrepreneurial go out there and get them sort of mindset, which I think they all possess.
Well, that's definitely
And, you know, I see
something.
that a lot.
That's definitely
You
something
know?
I've seen in you ever since I met you. Um, and you know what? This is all the time that we have for today. So I want to, let everybody know if you want to see a part two of this, because, there's just so much more stuff that we haven't even tapped into. Definitely let us know in the comments. And if people want to stay connected with you, Stephen, not only can they sign up for your schoolism class, which starts real soon, October 19th,
2 weeks.
on
Two
schoolism,
weeks, yeah.
but where else can they stay connected with you?
Well, I have my own YouTube channel too, which is youtube.com/silvertunes. And what I just get into is just a lot about philosophy on art there. And then I also have my facebook.com/ Stephen Silver. Those are really like the big things. I'm not sure what my Instagram is, but I do have an Instagram.
Your
But I'm not sure what.
Instagram, it should be Steven Silver 7.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Steven Silver 7. Yeah, because there's another Steven Silver. He took Steven
I
Silver, you
know,
know.
the imposter. You have an
I know.
imposter, right? Is it
That,
Instagram or
that,
is it Twitter?
that's on Twitter. Yeah, the
That
Twitter.
is
Yeah.
so hilarious because like the other schoolism teacher, Alex Wu, is not on
Yeah.
Instagram. He has, or at Twitter, he has an imposter as well, and it's like they know each other, right? The Steven Silver
Oh,
imposter is friends with the Alex Wu imposter. I don't know if you know that. And then they'll talk to each other.
really?
Yeah, as if you're talking with Alex Wu, which
Whoa.
is hilarious.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I was tricked in the beginning. I followed Alex Wu and I was like, wait a second.
Oh, really? It wasn't
Yeah,
real Alex Wu.
yeah, that's
Wow,
funny.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Right on. Well, had a blast, Steven. Thank you so much for hanging out and co-hosting the stream with me. And
Oh, yeah, it was
hopefully we can
awesome.
do this again.
Yeah, without a doubt, that'd be fun. It was how I think, yeah, it was fun reading the questions and then kicking off and just spawning ideas like that. It was very fun, and yeah, a lot of great comments here. A lot of seems like a lot of you guys really enjoyed it, and a lot of great questions through here. So yeah, well, it looks like we'll do it again.
Right on. Okay, everybody. So have a great day, and we'll see you guys soon.
See you guys.